This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. So, yeah, yesterday's session, we were trying to talk about certain built-in objects, right? So, how is the release, values, all these things are working. And after that, we went with values and we were trying to access the values. And after that, so trying to access the values. And after that, there's a next thing. So, all right. So, the next thing is template file and some template functions and pipelines. Okay, so let's try to talk about this. And we are doing this as a part of so printing the data on the notes.txt file, right? So we were doing that. Now here, what he's actually doing is he's trying to create a config map and actually he's putting a quote. Okay, so quote is what is quote is gonna quote the value basically, right? Double quotes. All right, so that's what it's going to do. All right, so we know that anyhow. So now yesterday we used pipe and do the code, or code and give this. Anything is okay, right? So that the templating language supports both the things. So one template function, and you can also use pipeline. So that's what they're telling, like pipelines I can use, or you can directly use the function. Okay, so either of the way it is fine. That's what they're trying to tell. And after that you have some functions basically. Okay, so you can always use those particular functions, so anything. And probably you have some repeat function, and so you have some default function. That means if the value is not given, okay, let's try to do this. Let's try to do this couple of things. Let's say what it is doing is it just goes and converts into upper characters and things like that. Let's start with here. Okay, now in the values.yml file, so now let's say I'm having so fruit is like, let's say banana. Okay, so now I want to say that fruit name in uppercase. So fruit name in uppercase is so it's gonna be dot template, dot values dot fruit. Okay, so you can go and give this as upper, and the same thing you can give it in upper. Okay, so that's what you have. So cd simple helm chart, and so helm space install, and then very simple, and then very simple hyphen dry run. Yeah, cluster is not there. So let it come. In the meantime, let's try to write some examples, and we'll finally run once. So that is a code, and basically this one. So there is something called as repeat, if you see here. So there is a repeat one. So what it is actually trying to repeat, we'll see. Okay, so repeat what? Repeat of something, right? So how do you do that is something like repeat of this one, and this actually values dot fruit, and repeat this one, and you get that. So I think they'll provide the output as well. Like, you see this coffee you're getting 5 times. Okay, you have that scenario. And the default function, if you don't provide the value, you want to pick up the default one value. So that's where the default comes into picture. Okay, so repeat of a word you have, and now the next one is so use a default value if value is missing. Okay, if value is missing, use a default value. So that's where comes is this one. So fruits, and it's actually going to be um, default of some apple. The fruit name is not given, so then we'll pick it up apple. Okay, and that is the case. And what are the other functions you have here? And so if you want to embed this with some other values, like let's say you want to, you want to embed this with, so include that your string with something else. So then how do you do that? So let's try this. So merge, so combine combine value with some string. Okay, so then how do you do that is a dot values dot fruit, and probably, so you can just give something. It actually throws an error. It's actually something banana shake or something. Okay, so it actually throws an error. That error, I want to combine with the word also. So like fruit and hyphen this particular one. So how does it works? It is actually error, right? So that's where we want to put this. So let's see how it goes. Let the cluster come. In a minute or two, the cluster will come. Come on, come on. Today we are wasting some time here. Almost there. Yeah, it's working fine. So now git space pull, the code is pushed. And git space pull, and then so just try to understand the functions will be there. That's what you need to understand. And the bar character, and bar character line number 60. So line number 60. So line number 60, you see this is a problem. You combine that with something, so that's where the problem comes into picture. Okay, in order to templatize this, I should be using something like this. I think how do I put a slash forward slash and slash, right? So yeah, that causes a problem basically. And to avoid that, so but I want a milkshake, though that's something okay, we definitely need it. And how do I do that is so that's what they're telling, right? So when you have something coming into picture, so if that is the case, so then do this. So now let's say fruit drink, and probably what you need to do is so here okay, so what you need to do is you just would be going with you would be going with the printf, all right, and the printf of percentile s hyphen shake, milkshake, and after that you're going to give this one, and you give probably go for include, and include of this one. Oh, favorite dot drink is not there. So first of all, so wrong number of arguments. So want to got one. Dot. This is a little complex one. So yesterday, I think we have seen it in other place somewhere. Let's take a look. Yesterday, somewhere I have seen that. In a simple way. Okay. So if I just take this directly and put it first, and if I go for fruit and so include of so if that is not the there, okay, include I cannot use values might be. Let's take a look. What include is doing. So first of all, we need to understand that also. Let's and what it is telling is include full name, no template full name associated with template go TPL. Okay, so here. So combine, so value with string helm basically. If you want to combine, so how do you do that? What we're looking is a quite simple thing. So percentage hyphen, okay. So shake and values dot root. This much is fine. Okay, let's take a look. All I wanted to print is banana shake only. Like how I print, that's different. Yeah, this is what I'm telling. Yesterday I have seen somewhere, that's okay. So this is what I wanted to do. Okay, and even that guy also is doing the same thing, but he's actually trying to put some default, right? But he's looking in a different approach. So now if I want to put a default thing, so then what I would be doing is a dot values or dot fruits, okay, pipe and the default, and actually I'm putting this in the bread. So because this is one set, right? So now fruits is missing, then only go for this. Okay, if the fruit is there, so just print that much, right? So Control R, I mean pushing it. So now you're getting, so banana. But like let's say if something, so if I give fruits, which this value doesn't exist, in that particular case, yeah, so it will throw you an error. Not error. Now it goes for banana shake. So if this is the value on the left side, what are the value you have? You don't want to go for the default value. Sometimes the user misses the value. You want to replace that with that particular value. So how do you do that? This is the one. Okay. So all right. The templating is all hands-on, dirty. Only with dirty things you will be able to learn it. Okay. And the next thing is lookup. The lookup function can be used to look up resources in the running cluster, and so the kind of the synopsis of the lookup function: lookup for API version, kind, namespace name, or something like that. Okay, So now let's say, okay, so kubectl get pod, my pod, and namespace is one. So how can you do that is look up for v1 and the pod and the namespace is my pod. So you put that, so that where you are actually pulling the information. Now let's say if you want some resources which is already there running, so how do you do that is by using a lookup function. So now here something is doing something like this, and so I will go for basically remove simply like this. So look up for v1 and the namespace, and the namespace look up for v1, and I would like to look for the pod, and if you go for kubectl get space pods and hyphen all hyphen namespaces. So now let's say if I am looking for this particular pod name, assume that simple one in the namespace and the pod name. Okay, the namespace, so which is this one. It's gonna be cube hyphen system. So you connect to the cluster and pull the information you're telling, and it's giving an empty value. Map is empty. Um, mm, okay. I don't think so, but still I'm giving. So you're getting a map basically got string, expected string got a map. Okay. So map of something you should be doing. Okay. So you're getting a list of value. You're getting the values, but actually we're not using in a right value. Straightforward printing is not the right answer for that. Okay. So then, so actually this guy is actually they're doing that only. Okay. Namespace, my namespace, something dot metadata dot annotation. So basically he's looking for some information inside that. Okay. Now like let's say if I go and give the same thing as is, okay, same thing as it is. So now let's say namespace, and the namespace name is like let's say cube hyphen okay, so system, and metadata annotations, it could be empty, that's okay, and on nil pointer. Namespace, you search for namespace, get namespace, my namespace is empty, and this one my namespace, yes, and you're getting lookup for v1 namespace is this. Rather than this, the next example would be the right approach, because we don't know the values which are there inside, so that dot metadata is also something is a confusion. So what we can do is, so let's try to do this. Okay, rather than this, we will go with this. Now range $index $service, look up for so v1 service namespace, and it's actually going for items, and so what we wanted to do here is I just want to go for index, okay, and I'm not getting anything. So because that's an empty list, the response you're getting is empty. Okay, this is running, range is running because the service and it is in the namespace is so basically cube-system, because that namespace doesn't exist, right? So previously cube system is the one which exists, so that's where the list was empty, so that's where the range is not really working. So what is the range? You will see that, but for now even these also I'm not getting anything. Or actually you should be going with item. Items should be calling it as item, huh? I also don't remember. So dot items, you're storing. It's been a while I tried this. Item is not defined, right? Let's go for service. No. So when no object found, empty value is returned. So this can be to check the existence of an object. That's okay. But why I'm not getting it? So lookup example. Lookup example help chart. If the lookup policy is there, do something. Okay, that's fine. But like, let's say if I want to. So look up for the secret. Okay, so kubectl get space secrets hyphen all hyphen name spaces. Like let's say some secret is this. So kubectl get space secret, this one, and cube system. Okay, now what I want to do is data dot this one, and this is the one. So now I'll go with this is the secret, and in the namespace, which is cube hyphen system, and data dot data token, like let's say our data dot namespace or data dot token. Data dot token. So am I using the right way? Let's see. Or it runs only dry run might not work, might be. That's also a possibility is there. Let's read the documentation little careful. Keep in mind that Helm is not supposed to contact Kubernetes API during the Helm template or install this one. So lookup function will return an empty list in such case. This is what is happening. Okay, if you use hyphen dry run, so the lookup function will give the empty values. It works only when you try to run it really. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So I'll just comment this out. Okay, so this works only. This works only when we really run, but not with dry run. Okay, so that's the problem is happening all the time. Okay, fine, but keep in mind, so it's usually used in certain cases, like let's say here also is a best example he has given, right? He want to create a pod security policy, but he want to check whether the pod security policy is already there or not there. If it is not there, he want to create it. If it is there, he want to ignore it. Okay, so kind of scenario if you have, so then you can go for the you can go with that particular one. Okay, and let's follow the documentation, and you have some conditions basically. Okay, you have for templates, the operators which you have is EQ, NE, LT, things like that. And in pipelines, operations can be grouped with some parentheses is what it is telling. And okay, so let's try to put some example. So the some example would be something like this, right? So you have already, let's take this. So now go for okay. So now it's actually going to be is okay. So dot sorry, like let's say if I go to the values.yml, I require some number. So now let's say fruits is 100. Okay, so then I'll go and say that values dot fruits. Okay, so this one is actually going to be 100. If it is not equal to 100, then do this, right? So do saying that so both are not equal, something like that. Okay, so just to show you these operators how it works in the conditions. So incompatible so is incompatible comparison. So like let's say if I go and give 100, so since it is a number, so I don't want to, I know I should not keep it in quotes, might be. So if I remove that, still getting the same error. So that any is that correct? I just don't remember. Let's take a look. But first, let's go with conditions. Also comes in, the next one, flow control is there. You will see the examples anyhow, and you will see them. And the logic and flow control functions, you will see that in the next. So which are you have here, and so which is and basically is returns boolean if it returns a boolean under the two arguments. So that means so returns a boolean or of the two arguments. Okay, so returns a boolean in the negation of the argument and EQ. So returns okay, both are equal or not equal and something like that. But where is the examples? Some examples just to check it out. So empty function returns true if the given value is considered as empty, which is fine. Println stream. Okay, let's give a try, but we're already giving a try. Not in this way. So basically we can go for saying any 100 space 100 So you're getting false, right? So that means 100 is not equal to 100, no, false, right? So if it is actually going to be like, let's say EQ, if I give, so it's actually gonna give true. So the previous expression, whatever we have used is true. I don't know, like we just need to tune that a little bit, check it out. So, but this is how generally you use that, okay? And all of them, most of them is not, it's really not that much difficult. So now if we just go for and of 100 space 100, and of 100 and 100, and we don't know how that this logic works. Let's see the output. You're getting this. So, and if I go for or of this one, now what happens? Still 100, I think. Okay, so technically what's happening? If I go for 101, then you will see the difference, and 101, you will see the difference, right? Both same numbers, you might not see the difference. So and is basically what it is doing is it is trying to print the second value, and I mean it's not second value, it's actually you're going to specify some argument here. You're going to specify argument. So and is basically is if first argument is true, then it goes with the second argument. Okay, so that means what actually I have to do is and should be used in this way. So and should be used in any not equal to 100 space 100 and any not equal to 101 space 100. So that means 10102. Okay, so and that means both are true or false, it is telling. Okay, so now if 102 is not equal to 100, this is true, and not 101 is also not equal to true, and operator. So what it now returns is the thing. Okay, so that's all shell scripting concepts. It's nothing super. Basically, it is giving true, right? Whereas in this case, basically, or also it gives us the same thing. It gives true only. So, but actually, so if this is this one, if any one is the true, it gives the true. If both are false, it is false. Okay, so that's a quite common standard in the scripting language. Both comes as true now. Okay, if both fails, like let's say this also you give 100, if both fails, it is going to be a failure. Whereas in the case of and, if any one is fail, is a failure. If any one is a failure, is a failure in and. Whereas true, whereas in or is if one is failure is also a failure. Both fails, it also cannot do anything. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, and or I think not is reverse, eq, any, all these is quite simple. Okay, so the default to simply default a value using, we already seen this, but to set a default value, use default. In the above dot bar evaluates as a non-empty value, so it will be used, but if it is empty, foo will be returned instead. Okay, it's just gonna look for dot bar value, and if it is not there, so then it gives yeah, we already seen that, nothing more. And also here is a quite important thing. So the number should be denoted without any quotes, and a string will be denoted with quotes, list will be denoted with square brackets, dictionary will be denoted with flower braces, booleans are trues and false, and so null is nil. Okay, so something like that. Now so empty function will be true if the given value is empty, if it doesn't have any value. So fail is something like that, so please accept the license agreement. It just marks as a failure, so by printing some message. Okay, so colons or coalesce, we call it as. So what is coalesce will gonna do is here is it function takes a list of values and returns the non-empty one. Okay, you just take this, returns one, because the function is useful for scanning the multiple variables or values. So now what you're doing is this above returns one. How it is going to return one? You're going to put dot name on dot parent name, parent dot name, and mat. So that means what it does. So the above will check. The above will first check dot name is empty, then it will then it is not, it will return the value. I mean, check if dot name is empty. If it is not empty, it will return that value. If it is empty, it colons will evaluate the next one. If this is also empty, then finally, it go for mat. Basically, it's validating multiple variables and finally declaring the value. Okay. So ternary is something like, so provide a ternary function takes two values and tests the value. If the test value is true, the first value will be returned. If the test value is empty, the second value will be returned. Okay. So what and in what scenario we can use this? Okay. So it just takes two values and test a value. If the test value is true, it returns the first value. So in this particular case, so what ternary does, let's try to do that some practical so you will understand. You're getting the first value. So first value will be validated if that is okay. So that is there, and you're getting foo. Okay, it takes the takes values and test a value. If the test value is true, so that means it's actually going to be okay. It's validating whether it is having the value or not. Okay, so that means it's actually giving. So like let's say if I go and give false and something like that, this doesn't make sense because it fails, I believe. So you're getting bar. So what actually it is doing is if the first value is there or not, it is checking. If that is equal to true, it is returning this. If that is equal to false, it is returning this. Let's put in a simple way, even much simpler for you to understand. So expression can help you. So now let's say equal to which is ABC and then ABC. So now both are equal, right? What is this operator is going to do? Both are equal. So now if it is equal to false, I mean if it is equal to true, then it returns ABC. But I doubt actually it works that way. Values you cannot keep. It's okay, fine. So it's actually giving true. The value outcome of this one is true, right? We have seen that already. If both are true, it is becoming true. Okay, if that is true. So now let's say ABC1, if I give, if that is a false, I think still you get false only because you're getting some value. So it all just checks for the nil value if I'm not wrong. If the test value is empty, if it is empty, then only you get that. Yeah, now you get false only. If the test, whatever the value is empty, okay, if that value is empty, then only you get that. So that means I give a variable so which doesn't exist, like let's say dot var, okay, dot var one, something like that, that doesn't really exist. So in this particular case, so what you're going to do is if that is true, you print that value. If that is false, you go for but you're getting false, right? Dot var one is false, but you're not really getting a bar there. So let's put this way. So that means if the value is empty, return bar. It's confusing logic. So you get the bar. Okay. So then what that's the condition you're checking is if this is empty, if it is false, if it is actually mapping with false, then return this value. Okay. So yeah, that's how it's gonna be. It's all pretty rarely used scenarios. Don't to worry that much here. And what is the next one you have is some string functions. So you can go for print. Print has something you can deal with the print. And so the next one is a println. So basically if you go for here, just say print this much. So dots might not be there. We'll throw another. So it's actually a nil value. Okay. So That's okay. So you're getting it right. Print. So println is basically works the same way print, but adds a new line at the ending. So that means if I just go with the println, it ends with a new line. So one more line will be printed after that line, empty line. But it's not coming. I think print also doing the same thing. You don't really very much. Fine. Or yeah, I think this is already given in the format of LF. LF always tries to give the ending already at the slash n, so that's the reason. That's okay. And so now you can use %v, the value of the default format, and that means the value in a default format. So whatever the format is given, you just print it like that. So without any data validation, I think. So let's see this. This is basically a string, and this is a decimal, right? But what actually %v is actually going to do? Okay, let's take a look. So you have some data types. Okay, so let's see. So until now, you might have not seen that some data types is a pure kind of a programming kind of thing. So you will see some data types here. Now, print so print, I can go for v is %v, okay, and the variable is a dot values dot fruit. Okay, so something like that. So you can see that v is %lv banana. Okay, so but actually this percentile is not really implicating anything. Why? So v is banana. Okay, so what we have done, the difference printf we have used, right? So yeah, I think, see, it's basically telling is it doesn't bother about the data format. Okay, so whatever you have, it will print there. Okay, so not in that particular case, okay, so use that %lv is telling. I think, yeah, it's up to you. So if you don't want to use any data type format, so %lv is the scenario. And if it is a boolean, you should be using a %t. Okay, so that's what it is, and the different data types you have. So based on the scenario, you should be using it. And trim is something. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. Where are we? Trim, basically trim is telling you trim is a very common in trim is very common in so in most of the programming languages and scripting languages, it just trims the extra spaces. Okay, so but how to tell that? 1, 2, so but it will not work that way. It cannot. So if you have some extra spaces, something like that, okay, so it will, but you'll not be able to see because empty things you cannot see it on the screen, right? So then that's the reason actually you'll not be able to see, but at least you can see that the basically at least before starting there is some hello, that is some spaces before the hello, those are gone, right? And also you can say that so something so like let's say something like that at least can show no, it will not work. So it is expecting only 1, but it is getting 2. Now let's say if I put this in a function and I can go for print. Now you'll see that whether it is actually doing the trim or not. You see this? That spaces is going right. Friend before hello is going on. After hello also is going on, right? So the trim all, trim prefix, trim suffix, it's all before, after, lower, upper, nothing to explain here. Title basically converts into first character into the uppercase, right? Untitled, basically if it is a title, it just converts into untitled. That repeat, you already seen that how many times it actually replaces. And substring, so basically substring, get a substring from a string, so it takes 3 parameters. So basically what it does, what substring is doing, so 0 and 5, so 0 to 5, it is trying to print the characters from 0 to 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, empty until space you are getting. Now let's say if I give 6, so you get until W. No, am I something wrong? 0 to 6, right? Let's go. 0 to 6 means 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm expecting until W. This assumption is wrong. Okay, so from 0, 7 characters. Okay, it makes sense. It's not actually 0 to 7. From 0, it's actually going to be 7 characters. Now let's say if I want LLO, so from 0, 1 and 2, so from 2 I want 3 characters. So it's not, doesn't mean 2 to 3, right? From 2, 3 characters you print it. Okay, so that's a quite common one again in shell as well. So you're getting L only. So from 2 print until 3. So print until 3. Okay, from 2 not again number. Okay, so from 2 print until 3. Okay, from 2 to 3 is only L only, right? So from 2, how many you want to? Okay, so from 2 print until 7. Okay, so then now you will see that. Yeah, this is how you are getting it. Okay, and so no space basically converts into so no removing the spaces. Truncate, so truncate a string. Truncate provides trunk provides what? Trunk a string, the above produces hello. So trunk provides 5 minus 5, so from reverse, yeah, it's also the same thing. So on the 3, if I go for you're getting 3 characters basically. So yeah, so either you can also use substring also, right? So anything is fine. So now the abbreviation basically approve does what it just provides. So the above returns he dot dot dot. Okay, since it counts with so it is actually doing replacing those many characters with so I mean dot dot basically, but on which like I'm expecting like world also becoming as dot dot dot. And but what is the max length? Okay, max length you make it is 5. Okay, and you make that, so it's just converting into abbreviation, right? So abbreviation basically abbreviation words, right? So you just get some blanks in between, something like that, right? So this is what it's actually putting after 2 characters. By default it takes the first 2 characters and remain how many you ask, so that many you get it as this one. So if I go for 15 number, so you're actually going beyond, right? So like let's say if I give 7, yeah, so until, so if you're as you're going beyond, the 15 is actually going beyond. If it is going beyond, so the abbreviation failing. Okay, it's not actually doing anything, it's actually failing. So that's where it has to be under boundaries. Okay, abbrev both, what abbrev both is doing is the above produces the output of this one. So you have multiple words also, you just do the abbrev from 5 to 10 it is telling. So left side offset and max length. Okay, so these are all really these are all really um, so these are all really not needed. Okay, initials, you get only initials, probably you can just read them. Okay, there's a whole lot of functions, by the way. Okay, so you can just play them. If we start doing this, our day will go away, days will go away. So you can just note however I'm doing it, right? So just do the same approach, play with it, understand it, and then okay, you will get some understanding. Let's go with the flow control. So flow control, that flow control is always basically like, so flow is always from top to bottom, it executes. Now, if you want to control the flow, you want to move to some other way. Okay. So then the flow control comes into picture, like, functions and, so general functions, but not here functions, but general functions, loops, conditions, these things comes under flow control. So here you are having, so if else for creating a conditional block, of course, with to specify a scope, something, and range to provide a for each kind of a for loop. Okay. Let's see. If something or else something, you do this, do this, do this. So this is the if syntax. This is nothing much critical. And so a pipeline is evaluated as false. The value is a Boolean false or a numerical 0, an empty string, a nil, an empty collection. If any of the case, it's going to be a false. Okay. Under all conditions, the condition is true. Under all other conditions, the condition is going to be true. So you put a condition, and based on that condition, now you can put the condition here, right? So if you say that, so if, so like let's say I can give equal to, so 100 space 100, this is a true, right? So basically, and 100 is 100. 100 is 100 because 100 is 100, right? So because it's true, and if I make it false, now the EQ is going to give you the false, so that 100 is 100, you'll never get it, right? Okay, you see that that's not printing, so that's a condition, basically condition, nothing much. So you can just talk that way. Also, yeah, I think he's just checking EQ with the value if it is equal to coffee, something like that. That's fine. And so controlling white spaces. Okay, so the white spaces controlling what actually this guy is doing. Yeah, here the spacing basically. Yesterday only we have, no, not yesterday, that is another batch. Okay, so here you are having some spacing. So basically when you're writing some YAML and all, so the spacing is a quite important thing. Okay, so you just give an outdated spacing. You see this? Spacing is not corrected. Okay, so the output is actually going to be like this, but which is not a correct value. That's not a proper YAML. So you have to correct the spacing properly. Okay, so generally what we do, if it is a if condition, so what we generally give is, so actually we go and give the spacing. That's how our indentation we follow in normal languages, right? So but this is a templating language. If you give the spaces, it concludes that particular, it uses that particular spaces as well. So that's the problem. Okay, so that is where okay, so that's where that controlling spaces comes into picture, and that you just keep in mind. That's fine. And so modifying scope using width. So with pipeline, so it is using control structure, this one something. So restricted scope. So what it is actually trying to do is with values.favorite. Okay, and so but how do you are actually taking it? So what you're doing is with okay, so what actually you're doing here is you're writing a map basically. So how the map is gonna look like is, so here he is using a values favorite, right? So favorite, and that favorite also is making in favorite basically he's making a drink name. So drink, like let's say juice, and food is like let's say, so food is so like let's say continental. This way you have, and if you just want to do this, so then how does it will looks like? So this what you're going to give. So if I just okay, so you're getting those particular values, right? Right, he's converting into upper quotes, and he's he upper characters and coding he's putting, and any value is empty, it is giving some value as well and something like that. Okay, so you're getting this, right? So this is how, so use width is actually taking that particular variable, and it's a map, and it allows you to access that particular value as this value. But I can also use directly, right? So but what is the value it is bringing basically? So that's what we need to understand. uh, I can also directly give dot values dot favorite dot drink also. I can give that here, right? So but what value it is actually bringing, we need to understand. Mm, I'm not seeing Yeah, scope will be allowed to the current scope. That's what it does actually. That's why. Yeah, nothing more than that. So the scope will be converted into the current scope. The whole scope is actually dot values, dot favorite, dot this one. So that will be converted as a dot, dot. Otherwise, it has to be dot values, dot favorite, dot drink, and so it saves some code. Like let's say you have big values and all, rewriting the things again and again. So probably rather than that, this is some approach. That's it, nothing more than that. So nothing too much map value, but still, so in terms of saving some code, it can help you. So looping with the help of range is important. So like let's say you have a favorite something like this, and if you have something like this, the data. So range, right? The range. So what range I'm doing? Range is actually values dot feature toppings. So take that particular dot value. Okay, so dot is actually is going to bring one by one value. So the first value is actually going to be dot mushrooms, and mushrooms is actually taken as title. That means capital M will come and quote it. Okay, so that's what it is doing. So you see this? That's what it is doing. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. And it's actually a list value, so you can remove that hyphen also. You can just give this much. And so range is also converting into that scope is also being changed again. So but it is actually iterating. So iterating how many times, the number of, based on the number of values which you have out there. So based on that is actually iterating. Okay, so you have these and it's actually printing that way. All right, so that's how you're having it. And so we can use dollar for accessing the pizza value. So that means what's dollar? So we can use dollar for accessing the pizza value toppings, but the scope dollar is mapped to the root scope. So when okay, this is also a little tricky part. Is also a little tricky part. So because you are putting under with, if it is under with, is actually so this is the problem basically. So what is the problem is, see, if you give dot values this one, so what happens is it actually try to be, because you're under with dot scope is changed, right? Dot scope is changed. So that means it looks for a value of dot values, dot favorite, dot values, dot pizza topping. That's not correct, right? So there's a root value. So that's where you have to give dollar. That's not that much. Okay. So, but yeah, that's okay. So that's how something you can deal with the variables, and also you can just go for declaring the direct variables here. Also you can do that. So give them direct values here. So tuple is nothing but so a list kind of thing, so but cannot be modified. Okay, something like that is a tuple. So go with the variables, and the variables section, what you're doing here, so you actually try to declare the variables, right? So yeah, and so they would be talking about how do you declare the variables. Now let's say here what it is telling is any variable you are using, nothing. And now you see this, the release name, this one. So release name is not inside the scope. So release name is not inside the scope, that restricted in the with block. So one way to work around the scopes, issuing it to assign the objects. Variable is referenced. Yeah, it's actually doing is something like so a equal to dollar a equal to dollar b, a equal to b equal to c, right? Yeah, a equal to 10, b equal to a, okay, and c equal to b. So that's nothing but a equal to c, right? That's kind of scenario here. So what's actually telling is you can declare your own variable name and put that particular release name, dot release dot name, and you put dollar release name. So that also will be coming up as it just replace the value, nothing more than that. But what you're actually trying to do is you're actually trying to put a variable name. Okay, so your variable name to some data, but you're not putting a data, you're putting again another value basically. That's what you're doing, and you will get that. That's okay. And range dollar index dollar topping in this one. So this is quite important. So if you just go with this, so now if I go for so this one index number. So now range you're taking is so the same page of toppings you're actually taking, and you're putting the index number also. So since you're putting the index, okay, so you see this, you get the index number also 0 1 2 3 4. So if you want that particular scenario, you will be using it. So mostly with the list it might not be useful, but if it is a map, basically the date, I mean, that approach can be useful. Now you'll be having a map and key and value. So in that particular case, so it's a quite important thing. Okay, so that means I'm actually trying to do this. So values.favorite key and the value. So who is the key and what is the value? So if you go to the values.yml, key is drink and coffee. So that means if I want only keys, only value sometimes, so then yeah, this is a quite important thing. And you see this? Okay, so this is the important thing. And what else? Variables are not normally not globally, they are scoped to the block is what it is telling. We assign release name in the top level of the template, so that variable scope is the entire template. But in our last example, key and values are only the scope is inside the range. Okay, so now what he's trying to do here is he's actually putting the ranges at here, range is here and here. Yeah, that's okay. It's just iterating. It's just iterating the multiple charts. That's okay. The whole block also you can give that. Example is given that. That's it. Nothing more than that. The next one is some named templates. So it is time to move beyond one template they're telling and begin to create others. In this section, we are going to see how to define the named templates in one file and use them elsewhere. Okay, so what does that means basically? So declaring and using the templates within with the define and template. For an example, you have here define my name and a template here, and you use it something here. Okay, so like this. So let's say they're defining the labels here, and so they're going to consume it here. All right, so you can declare them here. Okay, and you just try to consume it here. You're getting them right. So you're just doing some time and date, and you're doing this. You're putting it here, and you're just consuming it here. Okay. So what actually you do is basically you're declaring a block, so kind of your own template, and embedding the template again inside another template. One template you try to embed in another template. In that particular case, you go for define and template. Okay, in general. And all is setting the scope of the template. So basically defining the variable, and you have this, and so chart labels, you give the chart labels, and you get this particular output. Yeah, we just use the values. It is telling you can use the values inside the tab. You can use the values inside the defined template. That's okay. That's fine. The include function. So previously also you have seen this. So this also sometimes is quite important thing. So we have defined a template that looks like this, right? So you can just go and do this. Chart name and chart version. Now say I want to insert this both label section into my template and also into the data. So I want to put it in two places, this one. So in that particular case, so what it is actually telling is include function will help you, right? So what actually doing, so here normally you can call it as a template, that's fine. But here you're putting a range key value is colon favorite and you do this and you are getting the data. So app name you're getting and this is also favorite by the way, and template you are actually putting on the data side. Okay, so but yeah, if you are putting on the data side you should have some spacing, so the spacing should be in a proper approach. So that's where you are including that particular template here and with the proper indentation too. So try to understand what he's trying to do is he's trying to put a so some chat and he wants that particular labels here and as well as in the data also, but while putting in the data the indentation is not proper, the indentation is missing. So that is where what he's trying to do is now include will help you. Include is basically is going to include that particular template and put it here, and providing the indentation too, you're going to get the things properly. Okay, so um, that's what you have it in this particular thing. So and the one last section basically which you have here is majorly on the point side. So the major one is the files inside the accessing files inside the template. Okay, so if you want to access files inside your template, so we already seen this particular example, right? So now we will get some understanding of what's really happening, right? So you have this. You have three files. Let's say assume config1.tmoml, this one, config2, this one, and you get this particular output. The yesterday session we were trying to make some files, right? So we made the files and it was failing in the very first place. New directory, I will say files, and the file name is new file sample.txt file, and this particular txt file is okay, so something like hello world. So now the content is actually in a file. So how do I do that is now it is telling files.get. Files is a normal one, and the dollar is actually telling that it's a root basically, and that means I know files.get is what you are doing, and I push this and I will say so even actually I should be getting something like this. Even range is also not needed since we are using one file. So I will just go and give files.get. So files.get and actually going to be is files slash sample files slash sample dot txt file. Dot files dot get. Yesterday also we're getting the same error, right? So mm, he's putting files as dot files, which is fine. He's putting dot here. Dot we are replacing as this value. That means config.tyml comes here, and so the file name comes here. That's it. If that file needs to be can continue from here tomorrow. I'm not sure like what I'm missing. Take a look with some fresh mind. Let's continue in tomorrow's session. So tomorrow, so mostly will be done. So these are the options generally. So what are the options? We'll just enlist like what are the options we have discussed, and so what you'll be having the charts, and we'll start writing the charts for our application. Okay. So for our application, we have different applications. We'll just write the Helm charts for each and everything, and we go and so consume them, and we do the CI/CD again. Okay. So ensuring our application is never going down. So that's the whole idea basically. We can stop it here. It's not a big deal. We'll continue in tomorrow's session. So any questions? So Helm is all about templating. Basically, you just need to know the templates as much as just
Helm chart.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, without Helm chart, like it's little easy. Hello.
Your voice is breaking. Come again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's breaking.
Making a little confused for us. Like without Helm chart. Okay, just a minute. Bro.
Your voice is breaking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Helm chart is little like without Helm chart is pretty simple for us to make the deployments. It seems.
Simple comes with
No,
simple
it seems
solving
like
simple
that.
problem, right? So it will not solve the complex problems. So
Yeah.
that's where the tools comes into picture.
Okay, so maybe the initial stage will be a little complex, and maybe after that it'll be easy.
So think about
Using Helm chart.
way, right? So you need to deal with so many objects and you have to update them, you have to control them, in a condition. Like, let's say I want to have a YAML file. So previously we have the YAML file, right? Now I want to parameterize this. So how do you parameterize that? You cannot do that, right? So it starts failing, right? So with the cube basics of any of the one, you go there. So now I want to say that this, I want to pass it as a parameter. How do you do that? So the very first place it fails. So the YAML file seems simple, but cannot solve the complex problems. And that's where the Helm comes into picture. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I templatize this, so now let's say what all the value I pass it, I get that, right? So if I just take this, I think I already started destroying it. So let's say if I go and keep that in the here, so nodes.txt, so now I pass the value. So like, let's say, so the values, so whatever you want to put it, like, like let's say I would say dot values dot image name or something like that. You pass the value and the content always remains same. So only this particular value has been, so changed, right? So you run it based on that. So probably you can just go here. Also this saying that, so here you want to do this with the pod name, right? So pod name also I would like to go with something like that. So dot values dot image name, image and name. So image name is not there, but still image name. But like, let's say I want to go for printf. Okay, so then I would like to say that, so percentile s hyphen, so pod, right? So now what happens if I pass nginx there? Nginx hyphen pod will come. And also I want to convert all this into lower characters because my pod always never accepts the capital characters. Like, let's say even if my image is in some capital characters, right? So that is where, okay, so now all the time what happens here, so what are the image name you provide, the pod name also will be created with hyphen pod and image will be replaced there. Life is simple, right? If I ask you to parameterize that with normal YAML file, you cannot do that, isn't it?
Yes, got it, Raghu.
Okay, so we'll continue in tomorrow's session then. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye. Good day. Good night.